With a new MLS campaign kicking off this weekend, let's take a look at how the Canadian sides have sought to strengthen their rosters in the off-season with some significant moves across the board. For TFC, it was mainly about boosting defensive options after a season to forget in 2022. Only DC United conceded more goals in the Eastern Conference last year, and Bob Bradley's side now have a new look backline to kick off the new year. Out go centre-back Chris Mavinga and goalkeeper Alex Bono, and in comes MLS veteran Matt Hedges, European signing Sigurd Rosted, and free agent signing Sean Johnson in goal. Despite those acquisitions, TFC are still plus 175 underdogs in their opening match against DC United on Saturday. After missing out on the playoffs last season, Vancouver Whitecaps also moved for a new goalkeeper, with Japanese shot-stopper Yohei Takioka signing on from the J-League. The 26-year-old won the league title in Japan last season and will offer a major upgrade in defense. Also in the club's third DP in Sergio Cordova, who will hopefully add some offense with Canadian international Lucas Cavallini parting ways with the club as the old-fashioned number 9 headed back to Liga MX side Tijuana. Takioka will be put to test against Real Salt Lake on the weekend, with the Whitecaps plus 137 favourites to bag an opening game win in front of their home fans. And finally, after a stunning campaign last year, CF Montréal will hope to do even better this time around, although that will be difficult with several significant departures, including its coach. In comes Aaron Herrera from Real Salt Lake and George Campbell from Atlanta FC. The Quebec side also brought in some European pedigree, with Ilias Iliadis signing on from Greek giants Panathinaikos and Jules Anthony Vilsant arriving from the Belgian top flight. Montreal are plus 170 underdogs in a tough season opener away to Inter Miami, but with their squad looking quite different this season, you could be surprised to see Hernan Losada's side get their first 3 points on the board this weekend. Michael Singh joins me, and yes, we're getting set for the kickoff this weekend. Pretty exciting, actually. And these Canadian teams, there's actually a really good rivalry between the three of them these days, right? A lot of dislike amongst the fan bases, which is the way it should be, right? There's very different looking teams to this time last year for all three of them. Who should be favoured? We saw Montreal, let's be honest, they bossed MLS from the Canadian standpoint last season. Who is the best this year? Is there one that's obvious?
None of them are obvious, right? I think a lot of these teams, and I think each one of these teams, it could go really well or it could go really poorly. What I'll say is the team with the highest ceiling, I think, in my opinion, is going to be Toronto FC. And yeah, sure, we can say, oh, Toronto, here we go again.
Just wait for it, Mikey.
Here we go again. But when you look at the roster, this is the team that has the potential to, when they do strike, they have the highest ceiling. Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi, they're the best players, not only on Canadian teams, they could be the best players right now in Major League Soccer. So when you have those two at their disposal and the starting 11 that they've brought in, like Sean Johnson and Matt Hedges, if they're clicking, TFC have the potential to go all the way. I can't say that about the other teams, Canadian teams right now. When they're clicking, they have the potential to be very good teams, but do they have the potential to take that next step and go all the way on a title run? I'm not sure.
Well, there's one fan base, right, that needs something. Anything, really. It's Vancouver.
Yeah, it is Vancouver.
I mean, year after year, they seem to disappoint. They're never going to be the highest spenders in the league, but they're building the team, I think, strategically, certainly. And last year, once again, though, the defense was the reason why they failed when it came down to the clutch. Is it, again, this year, a team resting on improved defense? Because moving forward, and in goal, they've actually addressed some pretty important areas.
Yeah, I think defense is once again going to be their biggest question mark. Aside from defense, though, you have to take a strong look at Vanni Sartini and what he's doing there. Is he the right guy right now to take this club again to that next step and that next level? We've seen flashes of it where Vancouver is playing so well under Vanni Sartini. They're picking up important results. Heck, look at the Canadian Championship last year when they found a way to get a result. But that's not the type of football that wins consistently, right? You don't want to be sitting back all the time and just playing off the counter, which, you know, might be what Vancouver has to do once again this year, just based on the way that the roster is shaping up. But you know what? I actually do, like, as much as I'm being negative here, I actually do like Vancouver's roster this year. I think they're in a much better spot this season than they were last season, where they left it a little bit too late when they went on that miraculous run. I think this year they're going to get off to a better start, and I think we see a little bit of almost Montreal vibes in this team, where they've gone out and they've gone and proven MLS players like a Sergio Cordova, who I think is actually an improvement over Lucas Cavallini up top. And then you have guys like Ryan Gold and Julian Gressel and Andreas Kubas in the midfield.
It's a good midfield, isn't it?
When they're on and they're healthy and they're performing at levels that we've seen them perform, like specifically Ryan Gold, this team has a higher ceiling than I think a lot of people might give them credit for. It's just a matter of if they can stay healthy and if Vanni Sartini can figure it out and honestly finalize a playing style that I think best suits them, because we've seen him flip-flop a lot.
With Montreal, I mean, I think we have some sympathy for them. What happened last year was great. They played wonderful football, best of the bunch from Canada for sure. But we speculated all year long what happens. Mihailovic leaves, of course. Kone leaves and he leaves. Allison Johnson leaves. Wilfred Nancy leaves, the coach as well. There's a lot of gaping holes that had to be addressed this off-season. Have they done enough, do you think?
You know what? Like when you mentioned those players in isolation, those are all very good players. Now, I think their biggest loss from a personnel standpoint is going to be Georgi Mihailovic, just because he had that offensive flair and that creativity and the ability to break down a back line because he's that good. I think replacing him, they haven't done a good enough job doing so. But I do like how they brought in Aaron Herrera. He's one of the best fullbacks in Major League Soccer, and I think he actually will fill the hole that was left by Alistair Johnston. Ismail Kone, as much as we tout him and as good as he's going to be, he wasn't that crucial for Montreal last season.
You're right. It was all about the potential with him, right?
It was all about potential with him, exactly. So in that aspect, personnel-wise, they still have a lot of really good players, and I don't think they're going to drop off as much as people might be expecting, even though they're losing some of those star pieces. Now, the biggest question with this team, it's Hernan Losada. He could be a good coach, but his coaching style is completely different than Wilfred Nancy's. Wilfred Nancy liked a little bit more of a pragmatic build-up, a little slow approach, which actually got the best out of a guy, let's say, like Sam Piet and Victor Wanyama in midfield. That's how he got the best out of them. Hernan Losada likes chaos. He likes playing everybody on the front foot. He likes to press, almost like a Chris Armas kind of style, right? A Red Bull kind of style. Hernan Losada likes that. Now, that's a completely contrasting approach to what Wilfred Nancy brought to this team last year, and I said it. This team was a good team, but they were overperforming under Wilfred Nancy. Now, with Hernan Losada coming in, I'm not sure how much he'll be able to right the ship here and get off to a good start. I guess we'll see with this personnel, but they're one of the most interesting teams, I think, in MLS to watch.
TFC, listen, the starting 11's really strong. We know that. You're talking to Tom Bogarts yesterday, and he questioned the depth being the one issue there. He actually had them 13th in his predictions. I'm looking at a lot of the well-known MLS insiders from the States in particular, and not many are rating TFC as being a real contender here. Are they discounting them naively, or have they all got valid points?
I think they have valid points, to be honest with you. Like I said off the bat of this segment, when TFC, if they're clicking and everything's going right for them, they have the potential to honestly win MLS Cup. I've said it in the past, I'll say it again. This starting 11, as you mentioned, I'll take them against any starting 11 in Major League Soccer. But the question is, as you touched on, depth. What happens if one or two players go down? That's a significant blow to this TFC team. I'm not sure if they'll be able to sustain that. If it's to a player like, hypothetically, Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi, what happens? Those are the two guys that are driving TFC's offense right now. And that's where I think the biggest question marks are for this team in a congested year, congested schedule. There are real concerns. And like in a congested year, it's very likely where teams are going to be faced with injuries, and I think TFC fall under that mold.
And they still might address that, right? Bring more players in. Now, I know there's cap issues there, but you and Tom were talking yesterday about the summer and maybe another DP coming in making a splash. How big a splash are we talking here? Are we talking Insigne-sized splash, a smaller splash, and where will the splash happen? In the midfield, defense, or up top?
Definitely a smaller splash than Lorenzo Insigne.
Like a pebble hitting a nice pristine lake?
Yeah, you know, and
Ripples?
hopefully it has that ripple effect where it allows them to go out and add more to their roster, right? When you add a DP halfway through the year, the cap hit, the cap charge, the salary budget charge, whatever word you want to use, it's only half the amount. So it does give them a little bit more flexibility, and depending on the type of DP that they add a young DP per se, then they can go out and add other pieces around them. So it does give them some more flexibility options heading into the summer. And hey, if they get the right piece and you identify where exactly the need is going to be for this team. If Diomande or Ayo Akinola isn't the guy answer up top, maybe it's number 9. Or if you need depth in the midfield, then Mark-Anthony Kaye isn't living up to it, or Jonathan Osorio's injured, or Michael Bradley's lost a step, maybe it's in midfield. They have the option now to sample what's going to be, I think, a competitive year until the summer and address that need, and we'll see exactly how that plays out.
As they say, right, it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, it's the hope.
And there's hope right now for every single team in MLS, as simple as that. Kicks off this weekend. Michael will be here every single day talking MLS and specifically Toronto FC.